Y'all already know that Houston's original neighborhood downtown is for everyone, and it is poppin' in August with Downtown Houston's Plus most popular events in Market Square Park and Trebley Park, like Blanket Bingo, Movies Under the Stars, the Summer Trivia Series, and Beats and Flow Yoga. You can also enjoy cool treats at these night events from their Market Square Park farmers market vendors and Toot Suite in Trebley Park. Learn more about these great events at downtownhouston.org. Downtown Houston. Get energized and revived.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Today on CityCast Houston, why is Attorney General Ken Paxton suing a local immigration group? Plus, why HISD's budget could take a hit after the first week of school. And Houston officially has a bug problem, in case you hadn't noticed. Houston voice actor and longtime comedian Rob Mungle joins me to talk about the news you should know this week. It's Tuesday, August 20th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Rob, what's up, man? Good morning. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So excited to chat with you and talk about the big stories we need to know this week. It's been an interesting start to the week for me personally. I had knee surgery over the weekend, and I'm still kind of getting used to things and walking really slow. So I posted it on Instagram, and so many people wish me well. So I just wanted to bring that to the table before we started talking about the stories.
Oh, very good. Well, I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Hey, let's start with our biggest news to know this week. And I'll kick things off because the biggest story to know about this week is Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's attempt to shutter Houston immigrants' rights group, FIEL, an organization that provides aid and services to immigrants. The state argued that FIEL's nonprofit status should be revoked for failing to comply with rules governing 501c3 entities that limit political activities and endorsements of candidates. The lawsuit is alleging that FIEL engaged in electioneering by referring to former President Donald Trump as the quote-unquote son of the devil in Spanish. It also alleges that FIEL obsessively campaigns against Texas legislation. Rob, what are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, I'm shocked and dismayed that Ken Paxton would have a problem with a group that helps immigrants. That's just not like in his nature at all.
Yeah, it's so different, right?
Yeah, this is just the latest in a long line and a lamentable line of actions taken by Ken Paxton, a known criminal in his own right, who it's him and his cohorts in the state legislature who find that they have the need to counterbalance against federal law and using the state of Texas and their abilities and their powers to dictate immigration law. And it's laughable that on its face, that the thing you just told me about the election. Now, granted, those rules are in place for a reason to prevent organizations who collect money and from actually doing any campaigning and endorsement. But if that's the extent of what he's complaining about, saying that Donald Trump is the devil in Spanish, well, he is the devil in most every other language too. And so I don't think that rises to the level of needing to get their 501c3 taken away. It's laughable on its face.
And yeah, by the way, Ken Paxton was facing federal charges on securities fraud, but he did get a plea deal. And also, Paxton was impeached by the Texas House on 16 articles, but acquitted in the Senate. So yeah, that is something to remember as we talk about anything with Ken Paxton. So the other thing, the timing of this, Fial questioned the timing of the lawsuit since the comments, as we just mentioned, were made several years ago, Rob, and the organization argued that the lawsuit is a form of retaliation for the groups organizing for immigrant rights. And also Harris County District Judge Ravi K. Sandhill heard the arguments last week, and Sandhill expressed skepticism that the state's request to quote unquote annihilate the organization was too extreme, but he has not issued a ruling. And the timing coming from the Texas leaders right now is, well, it's interesting, and it kind of times up, right? Because all this is happening as a U.S. presidential race heats up. And of course, Paxton is a close ally of former President Donald Trump, who's pledged to crack down on immigration in his re-election bid.
Yeah. And when you look at some of the stuff that was done with that Operation Lone Star that our governor put forward, the amount of money spent versus any success is, again, comical. They fill the jails with people who basically commit a misdemeanor. They basically run a stop sign. That's what I've always looked at, the quote unquote illegal immigration. Mm-hmm. You've run a stop sign. There's a stop sign at the border. You ran it. Okay. So what's the punishment for that? What the same punishment you might get for actually running it. That's why it's a misdemeanor. And so you fill up these prisons, spend all this money, drag out the National Guard to accomplish nothing, because for a number of reasons, most notably, you're a state. You do not have the right to put forth immigration policy. That is the purview of the federal government. And the only reason they do it is so that they can have something to run on, that they can say, look, well, we're doing something the president's not, which is not true. The president and the Congress have tried to do things about this. And so this is the only issue that the Republicans have that has any traction. And yet, so they drag out the immigration and they blow it up and they say it's a crisis at the border, which I don't think is true. It's not a crisis, because if it were a crisis, you'd be calling Congress back into session and doing something about it, and doing something quickly. And when they did have a plan in place, a bipartisan bill, Donald Trump came down out of the mountaintop and said, no, we don't need that. We need the issue. We don't need a solution. So I think it's on its face, the Republicans are just unworthy of any respect when it comes to immigration. And you certainly shouldn't get it from the Texas Attorney General, of all people, you know?
I just find it so odd that both Governor Abbott and Ken Paxton are always talking about the rights for Texans, right? And they keep screaming about, we have to take care of Texas. We have to take care of Texas. And yet here we are in what seems to me, okay, this is my opinion, like a waste of time, when we could be solving other things that are impacting Texans across the state and here in our city as well. So it's just frustrating. And look, they're playing political games, and that's what it is. But could we spend our time, money, resources on something that could actually change the lives of Texans for the better? You know, that would be nice, which, by the way, that is what's happening here in Houston. The Houston Public Library has relaunched its Journey to Citizenship program, which helps navigate the process to naturalization to become an American citizen. So there is that. I wanted to bring up that story as the final point in our big story for the week, because there are cool things happening where people can become citizens and learn about how to do this correctly. My family went through this process back in 2005 to 2007, and it's an exhausting process. It's an expensive process. It's a confusing process. So to see the Houston Public Library helping out our residents here that need this help to become citizens, I love it. So there is that nice silver lining here.
Yeah. And by all means, I don't mean to suggest that we just have an open border. Nobody's saying that. But to hear the rhetoric that comes out of the right, it's just, you hear them talk and you hear the way they speak about immigrants and people coming here seeking a better life, is that these poor people have not yet suffered enough, and we need to make them suffer more in order to dissuade people from doing this. And so when you have a group like this one you just mentioned, when they do provide things to help people navigate the Byzantine laws and everything, that of course somebody like Paxton is going to go after that. because those are people actually doing something and helping people. Meanwhile, he sits up there and any number of things that could be solved in this state is just ignored. And it just pains me to no end every time I hear these people talk about immigration.
And by the way, thank you to the Houston Landing for information on both of these stories. You can find them linked in our show notes. Hey, Rob, what is your biggest story that we should know about this week?
Well, I think it's fair to say the biggest story in the country, and it affects everyone, is the Democratic National Convention in Chicago this week, which started Monday and goes through Thursday, when we'll see Kamala Harris be installed as the Democratic nominee. I have such hope, and I also have such fears for this convention, because I'm a liberal. Let's get that straight. I'm a liberal. I never voted for Joe Biden. I don't care for Joe Biden for a number of reasons. But when he ran 4 years ago, and it was the time of COVID, and so they had to have that sort of virtual convention, it was so heavy-handed, and so there was just no joy in it. It was, we're here to beat Trump, and that's it. And presidential campaigns require, all campaigns for that matter, they require a sense of hope. They have to require a sense of, this is a new beginning, new way we can look at the issues that are surrounding us and facing us. And I just hope that comes through, as opposed to just calling Donald Trump the devil in multiple languages.
Yeah.
That doesn't solve as much as showing a vision for the future, and a vision of where this country can go, and a vision for what we as a society, how we can come together and work to solve the problems that are facing us in the 21st century.
Yeah, with the DNC and how it's going to impact Houston and Texas, when it comes to the presidential election, it is interesting to hear that we want more policies. We want to learn about what actually is going to happen if Kamala Harris were to win that seat, right? I think the big story out of the DNC as well is what's happening with the Senate seat with Colin Allred and Ted Cruz. I think that one is the more interesting race, and how it's going to impact not only us here in Houston, but the entire state, obviously.
Sure, obviously. And how many years now has it been we've heard Texas is going to go blue? Yeah. This is when Texas goes. I've heard that song and dance for 15, 20 years. And one, I'll believe it when I see it. But two, I'm as hopeful that it could happen this time as I've ever been. But we'll see. I think the last poll had him down 3 or 4 points. I'm not sure, but it was something like that. And I just wish he would be out there more. I get it. You run the ads and everything, but I would like to hear more. And hopefully in this last 90 days or whatever, that we're going to see more of him. And God only knows if we'll ever get a debate, between Ted Cruz and him. We'll see about that. But there's a lot of other races too. I mean, Texas, we're like little blue dots all around a red state, certainly in Houston. And I worked on the campaign for Dana Steele. She's running out of District 36. I worked with her a couple of years ago. She's running again against Brian Babin. It's a district that connects Clear Lake up through East Texas, going up to Lubbock and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But that's a district that has seen nothing. It's just blood red. And it's blood red because most of it's in East Texas, and the small part of it is in Clear Lake. If you look at the voting, most of the voting in Clear Lake goes blue. But she lost last time because of the redness up through the East Texas.
Oh, so that's really cool. You were working on Dana Steele's campaign, longtime Houstonian and also a legendary DJ here from the Houston area. So if you don't recognize that name, that's who Dana Steele is.
She worked for decades at KLOL before it went under. And she's been prominent in the community, working on different causes, certainly with youth groups, LGBT youth groups. She also does a lot of things to work with mental health. She's also a playwright, and she's energetic, and she wants to get out there and work hard, as opposed to her opponent, Brian Babin, who I just think sits around all day and stares at the sun. So I just wish her the best, and I hope she can do well. And it's clearly a gerrymandered district. It's as gerrymandered as you get. But it's the hope that certain little things like that are going to turn this. I don't think having one senator who's a Democrat does as much, or can do as much, as getting all these little bitty districts, gerrymandered as they are, flipped in some way or form. If we can flip 3 or 4, just flip them blue, that would go a lot further. A senator's great. That's fantastic. But I think that does more than just one senator. And I'm hoping that happens.
By the way, if you want more coverage with the DNC, make sure you check out our sister CityCast out there, CityCast Chicago, and they're going to have some great coverage going on throughout the week. All right, Rob, let's get to lightning round. I have a couple of stories here that we're going to talk about quickly. And earlier this month, we spoke to HISD Superintendent Mike Miles about enrollment numbers for the new school year, and he estimated enrollment would be down about 2.2%. But early numbers are showing it could be down as much as 5%. The district's official enrollment will not be finalized until October 25th, but it appears to be on track to drop below 180,000 students this year, which would be its lowest enrollment in at least a decade. And for comparison, last year, HISD had about 184,000 students. This has huge implications for the school budget because funding is based on enrollment, Rob.
Yeah. I don't have kids myself, but I have spoken to people in the Houston area who do. And I have heard nothing but frustration since the state's takeover, that there's a variety of issues for whatever reason that just aren't being solved. And granted, there are some people who say it's going great. I don't see many of them, but I've actually known personally a couple of people who they are going the homeschool route. They want to be separated from this I guess the best word, this agenda for what HISD is doing. And I don't know the numbers on that, how big that would be. I can just say anecdotally, I have seen some people say they're just getting out. There are a couple of people I know have gone to private school, but more often than not, they're saying we're just going to do homeschooling. I can't even begin with the school system.
And look, the trend is showing right now. Again, the numbers aren't going to be final until October 25th, but the enrollment numbers are dropping, right? And whether it be because it is of the state takeover, it could be people moving to the suburbs, it could be everything. There's a whole host of factors, but whatever it is, the numbers are showing that HISD is losing students, and that is a big concern. By the way, I do want to talk about the story because we haven't had a chance to hit on this yet. We're still learning details about the tragic passing of 14-year-old student Landon Payton, who suffered a medical emergency during PE and died at Marshall Middle School last week. Landon's father, Alexis, said that the school nurse could be heard in video footage stating that she did not know how to perform CPR or use an AED, which is an automated external defibrillator. This is just unbelievable. Also, 2 teachers said that the AED was not functioning. What?
So it's really a testament to, in the last few years, there's been stories about it where young men, young women, students who, for whatever reason, whatever ailment, suffer heart attacks. And so the movement years ago was to put these devices in that can be used easily, that you don't need any real training to use, that a layman could figure it out. And to see those go in is really a positive thing. But now you're seeing there's a lack of upkeep on them for whatever reason. They're just ignored and say, they'll just be there when we get there. So that is a tragedy that is unspeakable. I can't even imagine to have the equipment there, to have someone who is quote unquote trained in the medical field and to not be able to help that kid is, I don't even know where to begin. Yeah. I don't know what I would do. Yeah. There would be lawsuits. I can tell you that there would be lawsuits.
Yeah. And HISD has actually come out and said that the nurse was an actively registered nurse with decades of experience. And her experience includes service as a cardiac and pulmonary surgery nurse while on staff at Harris Health System. Yet the father, Alexis, is alleging that he saw video saying that she didn't know CPR or how to use the AED.
That smells like a lawsuit waiting to happen on a number of fronts. It's going to be a hornet's nest that I would not want to look forward to.
And by the way, HISD has said that 85% of all AEDs are working in schools, but that means 170 aren't working, but they will fix those impacted devices.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Hey, Rob, you are a comedian. You travel a lot. And I'm sure you've driven to Lake Charles, right? And through it and on that iconic bridge, right?
Right. More times I don't want to count.
Well, guess what? Things are about to look a whole lot different in 2031. So we still have some time. But if you are traveling to New Orleans, like so many Houstonians have on I-10 East, that iconic bridge in Lake Charles over the Calcasieu River is officially getting replaced with a new, wider and toll-driven bridge. The current bridge is about 70 years old, and get this, Rob, it was named one of the most dangerous bridges in the country. So officials, I mean, it's scary. It's so high. The slope is nuts.
You can sense the depression, like the 1920s depression, when you go over it almost. It's like, this is comically unsafe.
Yeah.
It has little bitty guns on the side of it as decorative, little bitty guns. And
it's so wild.
You say, hey, how is this thing not collapse? I haven't. The fog. I hate it. Every time I've driven over that thing, I've been fearful. And I'm not usually fearful on bridges. I trust the engineering, but man, that thing has seen better days.
It has. So, by the way, officials in Louisiana have okayed a new bridge, but here's how it's going to impact Houstonians. It is now going to have a toll, and you are going to be paying $3.75 to cross it. But wait, Rob, it could be worth it because this new bridge won't be as steep as the current one. And there is that because, again, it is so scary driving that bridge. I have a funny story here for you. I helped my buddy move to Georgia a few years ago, and he packed up a U-Haul and he's like, hey, can you help me drive? Like he has a young kid and I wasn't doing anything at this time. It was during the lockdown. So I said, of course, like, let's go. I'm down for a good road trip. And he's like, you're going to drive the U-Haul. So I'm thinking, fine. The U-Haul is going to be hooked to an SUV, right? Like, all good. My buddy comes up and it was hooked to a Camry, a sedan. And I had to go up that bridge in the rain while driving a Camry with a U-Haul to the back. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done. I was like, this is it. This car is definitely going to go backwards.
Yeah, I bet coming down, it was almost like an avalanche.
Yeah, I could feel the pressure from the back. It was so scary. So, hey, I would have gladly paid $3.75 for a less steep bridge, okay, back then.
Well, I have one point about that. I cannot stand when they put up toll roads on interstate. The interstate is supposed to be wide open, free use for everyone, and to just arbitrarily say, okay, this part right here is now going to be $3.75. I guess they have to find a way to finance it.
Yeah,
but I hate that so much. That happens in Kansas when you drive north of Kansas. All of a sudden, when you get to Kansas, the interstate turns into a toll road.
Oh no. I did not know that. I have not driven to Kansas, so I learned something new today.
I've never found it. The 2 or 3 times I drove there, I had to pay that toll. The good news is, back then, they let you write a check for it. So I think I bounced 3 checks to the state of Kansas because they didn't want to pay the $12 or whatever to get to that state.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Rob, let's get to our Only in H-Town stories. What do you got for me?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a little self-pub. I don't do comedy anymore. I did it for 25 years. But I do, on occasion, get out and do some things in the public eye. And tonight at the Continental Club, I'll be appearing in something called Grown Up Story Time, in which people write stories about their lives or an incident. And then those stories are performed by an actor or a performer person or a singer of some sort. And so I get to be a part of that tonight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'll be coming into it blind tonight, and then we get it like 5 minutes before.
Oh, that is so cool. And you have such a magnificent career as a voice actor, so it's going to be really great to hear that. I love it. Okay, my Only in H-Town, as if this heat wasn't enough, Rob. We are in peak scorpion season. I'm talking about the actual bug. Right now in Texas, scorpions are the most active, okay? So be on the lookout for that. But also, Thumbtack just named Houston the 5th most buggiest city in the nation. So, Only in H-Town do residents have to deal with incredibly hot days coming up and bugs all over and scorpions as well, which is part of that bug trend. But it makes sense, right? We're the 5th buggiest city.
Well, we're basically just a well-manicured swamp as it is.
Yeah.
This whole city. And so I'm surprised we're as low in that list. I thought we'd be 2 or 3.
That's what I thought too. By the way, Atlanta was named the #1 buggiest city in the nation. I just went there last month. I had 0 issues with bugs there, so I'm kind of confused by this list.
Yeah, I don't get that either. Yeah, I don't. I hate all insects as it is, and this I haven't had any problem with scorpions lately, but I have with wasps, and wasps I have a death fear of them, and I can't kill them fast enough. In fact, I'll spray them, and if I see a little stray one that's still alive, I'll get it and squish it, and then put it on a toothpick so his friends know not to come around here no more.
Yeah, they are all over. Wasps are definitely peaking right now as well, it seems like.
Yeah, they're the worst. I hate them. I can't stand them.
Rob, thank you so much for joining us today on CityCast Houston. That was a lot of fun, and we'll see you around.
All right, thank you very much.
That was Rob Mungle. You can follow his work and appearances with a link in our show notes. Before we go, help us grow the show by leaving us a rating and a review wherever you listen to the podcast. You can also share this episode with 3 friends and ask them to subscribe. Thank you for always helping us out. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzanali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. Defibrillator. I can't say defibrillator. That's a tough one for me for today. Here we go. Which is just an automated external defibrillator. That's going to be in the bloopers for sure.